My wife and mother-in-law often spoke in their native language. So I recorded them, had it translated, and discovered a shocking truth that changed everything. My wife and I got married 2 months ago. We are both from different cultures and ethnicities. In her culture, living with her parents is normal. We had discussed moving in with her parents after we got married, but I wasn't very comfortable with the idea. I was born and brought up in America. My parents moved here in their 20s to achieve their dreams. When I was 19, I moved out and they supported my decision. So I told her that I disliked the idea of moving in with the in-laws. She told me that it was an important part of their culture. I told her that I respected our cultural differences, but that I wouldn't compromise on this. I wanted us to have privacy, and I had visited her apartment. It wouldn't fit all of us now. At this point, I thought that her parents lived with her. She had made it seem that way too. She had told me that she grew up here. We eventually compromised, and she asked me to try it out for a few months. And if I wasn't comfortable, then we could move out. So I agreed. We had a small ceremony when we got married, but it was beautiful. I moved into her apartment, and her family was extremely sweet. I didn't feel anything was wrong. Her mother and she would frequently talk in their native language, and I would be curious. I asked her to teach it to me too, but she would refuse and say it wasn't necessary. I told her that I wanted to be a part of their conversations too, but she still wouldn't teach me. Time passed, and I took a few classes online, but I was still learning. I only understood a few phrases and words. My wife and I both worked. It had been about a month and a half into our marriage, and my mother-in-law kept telling her to get it done. That's the one phrase I understood. When I would look at her, she would just awkwardly smile at me. I could feel that something wasn't right. I would ask her about it, and she would always just blow me off, saying that she would tell me later. As the days passed, my mother-in-law got more anxious about it. I tried asking her, but she wouldn't give me an answer either. I was fed up with it. We hadn't even gone on our honeymoon yet. I wanted to go abroad, but she would blatantly refuse and tell me she was busy with work or make up a similar excuse. One day, I was speaking with a co-worker of mine. She was from the same country as my wife, but I hadn't heard her speak her native language. I randomly asked her if she spoke the language, and she said yes. I asked her if she could help translate a few lines for me, and she said of course. I knew it wasn't right, but I was going to record them. I've lived with them for almost 2 months now, and I don't particularly like being left out of conversations all the time. I knew something was up, and I was going to find out what. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My co-worker, with her headphones plugged into the laptop, was translating the recordings I had secretly made of the conversations between my wife and my mother-in-law. With every word, my heart sank deeper into my chest. These weren't just casual chats about daily life or future plans. It was something much darker, something I could never have imagined. My wife and mother-in-law were planning to use me. I was just a means to an end. Apparently, my mother-in-law was drowning in debt, and my wife, who had grown up here but maintained strong ties to her culture, had been pressured to find a solution. And that solution was me. They needed someone who could support them financially, someone who could pay off the family's debts and ensure they had a comfortable life. I was the perfect target, a naive, passionate American willing to do anything for the woman he loved. But it wasn't just that. There was more, much more. My mother-in-law was sick, something I had never known. She needed expensive treatment, and my wife had agreed to marry me to ensure I would pay for everything. They laughed in the recordings, mocking my naivety. My wife said things like, "He's so easy to manipulate. He believes everything I say." And my mother-in-law responded, "You did well choosing him. He's weak, but he has money." I felt betrayed in a way I never thought possible. Everything I had built with her, all the moments we shared, all the promises we made to each other, were a sham. I was just a pawn in their game. And the worst part was that I had genuinely fallen in love with her. I had trusted her, opened my heart and my life to her, and she had used that against me. I didn't know what to do. My first reaction was pure anger. I wanted to confront her immediately, expose her lies, and make it clear that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. But something inside me made me stop. I needed to think calmly. I needed to plan my next move. If they were playing a game with me, then I would play back, and I would play to win. In the following days, I pretended nothing had happened. I continued acting as if I were happy and carefree. I even started showing more interest in learning their language, just to keep them off guard. My wife seemed surprised but pleased with my new attitude. She had no idea I knew the truth. Meanwhile, I began planning my revenge. First, I needed to secure my financial safety. I had put a significant amount of money into a joint account with my wife, but now I knew I couldn't trust her. I slowly started transferring the money back to my personal account, making up excuses about investments and unexpected expenses. She didn't suspect a thing. Next, I began gathering evidence. I recorded more conversations, took photos of documents, and even followed my wife on some of her outings. I discovered she was in contact with a lawyer, likely planning how to leave me in the worst possible position if I found out the truth. I also found out she had a secret bank account where she was stashing money I had given her for household expenses. Over time, I had everything I needed. Now it was time to act. One night, after dinner, I sat down with her in the living room. I was calm but determined. She seemed relaxed, unaware of what was about to happen. "We need to talk," I said, looking directly into her eyes. She frowned but agreed. "Of course, what's wrong?" I took out my phone and started playing the recordings. Her expression changed immediately. She turned pale, and I could see the fear in her eyes. "What is this?" she asked, trying to stay calm. "This is you and your mother planning to use me," I replied, my voice steady. "I know everything. I know about the debts, about your mother's illness, about the fact that you only married me for money." She tried to deny it, but I kept going. "It's no use lying. I have proof of everything. Recordings, documents, photos. I know you have a secret bank account. I know you were planning to leave me in the worst possible position." She started crying, but I didn't let it sway me. "You betrayed me in a way I never thought possible. You used my love and trust against me, and now you're going to pay for it." I explained that I had already consulted a lawyer and was prepared to take the case to court. I had all the evidence I needed to ensure she and her mother wouldn't get a single penny from me. Besides, I was ready to expose their scam to all our friends and acquaintances. She begged for forgiveness, saying she was desperate and had no other choice. But I was no longer willing to listen to excuses. I had been deceived, betrayed, and humiliated, and now it was my turn to take control. In the days that followed, I moved to a hotel and began the divorce process. My lawyer made sure I was protected in every way, and I cut all ties with her and her family. I also exposed the truth to our mutual friends, ensuring no one else would fall into their trap. It was a difficult period, but I knew I had done the right thing. I had freed myself from a toxic and manipulative relationship, and now I was free to start over. Years later, I look back and see that this experience taught me a valuable lesson. I learned the importance of trusting my instincts and never underestimating the power of the truth. I also learned that, no matter how painful betrayal is, there's always a way to rise and move forward. Today, I'm in a much better place. I found someone who truly loves and respects me, and I'm grateful I had the strength to leave behind what wasn't good for me. Revenge may have been sweet, but the real victory was finding the peace and happiness I deserved. I looked at her, sitting across from me, sobbing as she tried to convince me that it was all a big misunderstanding. But I felt nothing but contempt. Every tear seemed rehearsed, every word empty. I wanted her to know how much she had lost, and that she would no longer have any power over me. "You betrayed me," I said firmly, "and I will never forget that. But now it's my turn." That night, before we went to bed, she tried to get close to me. She tried to act as if we were still a couple, but I pushed her away with a single look. "Don't touch me," I murmured, and she stepped back. We slept in the same bed, but it was the last time. I was determined to act. The next day, without saying anything, I called my lawyer and explained the situation. He was shocked by the level of manipulation and guided me on how to proceed. I contacted the bank to block any transactions on the joint account that might still exist. I wasn't going to let a single cent fall into her or her mother's hands. I also transferred all the assets in my name into a protected fund. It was the first step to ensuring I got out of the situation without losing anything. Meanwhile, I kept pretending. For days, I acted as if everything was normal, even adding a touch of fake affection to keep her off guard. She seemed to start believing that I was considering forgiving her. But inside, I savored every detail of what I was planning. A week later, it began. At work, I requested some time off to handle personal matters and used that time to gather all the necessary documents to end the relationship. I hired private investigators to dig deeper into her and her mother's schemes. I wanted to make sure nothing was left to chance. And then, the day came. I arrived home earlier than usual, with all the papers in hand. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. When she saw me, she smiled, as if nothing had happened. "Hi, love," she said, but the sound of those words made my blood boil. "We need to talk," I said, throwing the papers on the table. She looked at me, confused, and I saw the moment it clicked. She started trembling, trying to grab the papers, but I pulled them back. "These are divorce papers," I continued calmly, "and I suggest you sign them without coming up with any excuses because you have no way out." She started begging, fake tears streaming down her face. "Please listen to me. I love you. I only did this because I was desperate. My mother needed help." "Shut up," I interrupted coldly. "There's no love here. You never loved me. You used me. And now you're going to pay for it." She tried to argue, but I placed my phone on the table and pressed play. The recording started playing, every word exposing the plan she and her mother had orchestrated. I watched the panic take over her as she heard her own voice talking about how easy to manipulate and weak I was. "You knew exactly what you were doing," I continued, "and you knew that if I found out, everything would fall apart. Well, here we are." She was silent for a moment before finally exploding. "And what do you want me to do now? Leave and let my mother die? Do you think you're better than me?" I laughed bitterly. "It's not my job to save your mother. And it's certainly not my job to support the two of you while you laugh at me behind my back." I stood up and grabbed the papers. "I've already taken every necessary precaution. You and your mother will get nothing from me. I've already informed the bank, the police, and my lawyer. And by the way, you have until the end of the week to leave this apartment. It's in my name now." She was in shock, but I wasn't done. "And one more thing. All our acquaintances, all your friends are going to know who you really are. I'll make sure no one else falls for the same trick I did." That night, I packed my things and moved into a hotel. I didn't want to spend another second in that house. She called me dozens of times, but I blocked her number. My decision was made. In the days that followed, I finalized the divorce. My lawyer informed me that with all the evidence I had collected, she had no grounds to contest anything. Meanwhile, I anonymously shared the recordings on forums and social media platforms where she and her mother were known. The backlash was devastating for them. Friends and relatives began distancing themselves, and the gossip spread quickly. In the end, they were left alone, exactly as they deserved. Her mother had to sell what little she owned to pay off part of her debts, and my ex-wife tried everything to rebuild her life, but the damage was done. No one trusted them anymore. As for me, I started over. I moved to a new city, bought a new apartment, and, for the first time in months, felt peace. Looking back, I realized that the greatest revenge was reclaiming my life and letting them sink into the mess they created. They tried to destroy me, but in the end, they were destroyed by their own choices. And me? I moved forward stronger than ever,